calling the Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission meeting to order at 7:04. As far as commission members, John is an alternate, but you were here at the last meeting, so you're able to participate.
Yeah.
And Paula, you can participate, but not vote as an alternate. And we have a new member, Joel Strong. He's replacing, John Rustock. So, and I'll tell you more about that later. I'd like to start, open the public, or motion to continue public hearing for application CC 2504, SL 50-58 Rainbow Road, LLC, construction of 2 warehouse buildings and associated site improvements in the upland review area and 2 access drives crossings. This is map 17, lot 11. I was thinking to start with an update from the applicant of the adjustments you've made in the plans.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Evan Seaman. I'm a lawyer at Robinson & Cole on behalf of the applicant. And I just wanted to again introduce to the members of our team joining us this evening. On behalf of the applicant, Colton Savato, Timothy Wool, our civil engineer with BL Companies, and Tiana Carini with JMM Wetland Consulting Services at Wetlands. So I think we're going to try to keep our presentation relatively brief. Again, this is an application for a permit to conduct regulated activities at 50-58 Rainbow Road. The property is about 130 acres of wetlands on the western and eastern sides of the property. And the project in general, 2 industrial buildings, one 400,000 square feet, one 300,000 square feet, with parking and related improvements. So at the last meeting, our team discussed the wetlands and related resources that are on the site and how the project has been specifically designed to avoid and minimize impacts to those resources. We discussed the minimal impacts, especially given the large size of the property, again, 130 acres. So only about 0.29 acres of the site will experience a direct impact to wetlands. And that represents about 0.28% of the overall site. The upland review area, work that will occur in the upland review area, that will account for about 2% of the overall property, 2.66 acres or so. We also discussed enhancement plantings, and the enhancement plantings, the area of the enhancement plantings is going to be about 0.31 acres, which is actually larger in size than the area that's going to experience direct impacts to wetlands. The small area that will experience direct impact. We also discussed feasible and prudent alternatives. Specifically, any other drive aisle that has access on Connecticut South Drive would have greater impacts to inland wetlands. This drive aisle was selected, even though it's longer and wraps around the wetlands area was selected to avoid any impacts to the maximum extent possible. So at the last meeting, Mr. Grimaldi, your town engineer, was here and discussed some of his comments and how he had responded to some. And the hearing was continued because the commission hadn't had a chance to actually review this written report. And since that, we've actually made some changes to the plans in further response to Mr. Grimaldi's comments. I think at the time, at the last meeting, Mr. Grimaldi had recommended some things as conditions of approval, and we've actually used the additional time to address those. That's what you have before you this evening. You also have a revised staff memo from Robin Newton. And, I should say, before I move on to that, Mr. Grimaldi's memorandum, it's actually his 3rd review of this project. It states in part, please note all of our comments from our letter dated July 2, 2025 have been addressed. Please take no exception with the drainage analysis. And then he offers some conditions of approval. As I mentioned, Robin Newton provided a revised staff memorandum, and it's largely the same, and I just wanted to read a quick excerpt from there. In reviewing the plan proposal, updated plans and comments, staff feels that the applicant takes appropriate considerations the site layout for building, parking, and access drives in accordance with the wetlands regulations, section 10.2 criteria for decision. This proposal has minimal direct and minor impacts based on the size of the development in the upland review area. Only wetlands impacts are being mitigated with an enhanced wetlands mitigation area. Prudent and feasible alternatives were considered for the roadway crossing with the shortest distance in the wetlands chosen, even though it created a longer access drive out to Connecticut South Drive. There is no way to exit this property into the industrial areas without a wetlands crossing. The southeasterly driveway is extended due to its winding construction so that it would be located in an area that presented the least impacts to the easterly wetlands complex. And she goes on to say a more direct route would have substantially increased the wetlands and upland review area impacts. So we agree with her comments, and with that brief introduction, and with that, Mr. Rules go over some of the provisions that have.
Good evening. I am Tim Poole with the company's the engineering director for this project. Just a couple of brief summaries of the changes as evident made. The revisions that you does respond to the handful of outstanding comments we did have from Mr. Maldi at last meeting. There were a few more minor administrative items like adding additional contour labels on some of the existing contours, referencing a survey datum that was used for the property, things like that. So really inconsequential items just to provide additional documentation for the file. A few of the more noteworthy items that we did add, Mr. Grimaldi requested additional hydraulic calculations for the stormwater piping system to verify that overall pipe network is sized to handle all design storms. He provided the gold standard, which was the 5-year storm, but we provided those calculations for all requests and verified that the system is sized adequately to handle all of the design storms that we reviewed. We also made minor updates to the overall site stormwater calculations, not just the pipe sizing, but also the filtration sizing. As you may remember, we did perform at Mr. Grimaldi's request some test pits just prior to the last meeting. It was a few days before the meeting. We didn't have a chance to update the plans, but substantially the test pits in the field more or less confirmed our assumptions. So we just took this time to revise our calculations to reflect that. Essentially, the field results that we encountered were no different than what our assumptions were. In fact, in many cases, they were better. There was one basin where we did have to raise the floor slightly, but we did have plenty of vertical elevation to play with. That basin, stormwater basin 1 on the plan, top left side, that basin is like 15 feet lower than the site, so the paved area. So we had plenty of elevation to pick that up a little bit, provide extra separation. We also added some scour protection in the stormwater basins. Mr. Plumley requested as all of the outlets where the storm drain system enters the basins that we add scour holes, which are essentially depressions in the basin lined with ground, so that as water is flowing in from the pipes, it has a chance to kind of slow down, alleviate some of that velocity, and then naturally dissipate into the rest of the basin. So we have added those. We also added a stretch of flat grading. It's referred to as a bench between the fill slope coming down from the parking lot and the beginning of the stormwater basin. Generally, when there's long fill slopes, it can be preferable to provide that grade separation, provide a break so you don't have one continuous long slope. We did provide that for Mr. Grimaldi's request. We strategically located it at the bottom of the fill slope at the top of the basin so that not only will it be a grade break along that larger fill slope, but it also will provide a level platform for any maintenance for the stormwater basins, sized to allow small construction equipment to be able to access around the basin and do periodic maintenance for the basins themselves. And finally, the last substantial plan revision we did, it's actually added quite a bit of sheets to the plan set, as you may have noticed, but Mr. Grimaldi requested we expand upon the erosion and sedimentation control plans that were in there. The original submission showed essentially all the measures on one set of plans, if you will. You requested that we break it out into phases for construction, so that there are now essentially 3 phases of erosion control plans in there. The first phase is reflective of erosion control measures at the time of clearing and removing stumps. The second phase demonstrates the erosion and sediment control measures during the NAS earthwork, where we're doing the majority of the cuts and fills. And then the third phase discusses and demonstrates the erosion control measures when the majority of the main site and building improvements are being constructed, such as the building itself, the utilities, the stormwater management system, and all the way through installation and paving. So those are the vast majority of major items that we addressed. Like I mentioned, there were a handful of minor administrative items in there as well. And I would like to reiterate from our discussions last meeting that our overall approach on this design was to meet or exceed all of the requirements through the various regulations. Our stormwater management system has been designed to reduce stormwater runoff rates for all design storms. That's to all of our various design points individually and as a whole. I think our site identified 5 different points where runoff leaves the site. We did reduce runoff to all 5 of those areas individually and from the site collector. So there will be less water leaving the site in proposed conditions than there is today, largely due to expansive stormwater infiltration basins we have on site. All that water will naturally infiltrate into the ground and restore into the ground. And we also have designed the stormwater system to provide treatment for all of the regulated through the 2023 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual. The main ones being total suspended solids. It's kind of what everybody is used to. We also provide hydrocarbons, but it does also provide treatment for items like phosphorus and nitrogen and other
Have some closing remarks? Sure, Madam Chair, members of the commission, that's all that we have in terms of discussing our revisions, and we just like to reserve the right to respond to provide a brief summation.
Yes. Before I ask Mike for if he has any additional comments, I would like to note that what I got from, so Robin's original report was June 30th, and then she revised it August 4th. And some things that she's identified that came out of the last meeting, they are asking the applicant to provide a light colored roof, which was one of the things that I think some of the neighbors were concerned about heat generation. So that's one of the conditions of approval. A UV coating over parts of the pavement to reduce, the heat generated by all that asphalt. It's not the entire thing, and I get the engineers will work out where's the appropriate place for that, but that will be a condition. And the concern for hydrocarbons from all the trucks that will be airborne. We can't regulate air stuff, but whatever lands in the storm detention basins will be tested annually for 5 years to monitor. So if a bunch of bad stuff is kind of seeping down into the ground, we'll have a way to know about it. So I just wanted to mention that. And Mike, what else do you have?
So yeah, those are proposed conditions or points of consideration that we added into Robin's report. There's a couple of other things that we did add under special conditions, which again are sort of in response to the discussions at the last meeting, which this all has been provided to the applicant. They have this. We're also requiring that the applicant's engineers certify that all the temporary sediment basins to be used during construction are installed before they proceed beyond that. So it's a lot of discussion and some concern that was sort of presented about, it's great if it's designed on paper, but how do we know if it's going to function? So the first step is the temporary stuff. We determine it's installed correctly. We're also asking limits of disturbance to be staked. So those areas will be there. So an individual that shows up to run a piece of equipment that hasn't reviewed 100 pages of plans will still know where those limits need to be because they'll be staked. And so once we then get the staking done, then the temporary sediment stuff will be put in place, the engineers will say, yes, it's designed in accordance with the plan, which means while the project is under construction and before those final stormwater improvements are in place, the site will function as designed to deal with, on a temporary basis, some of those issues. So those are conditions that we haven't really seen in your sort of standard list. We're requiring that if there are straw bales used in the E&S process, they be free of invasives. We don't want to introduce invasives where they aren't already. As the Chair mentioned, the applicant provide a report from a registered soil scientist at years 1 and 3 that the wetland enhancement area is stabilized and functioning as proposed. So there will be that ongoing monitoring to ensure that in the years following construction, that what they said was going to work and what the town engineer reviewed is continuing to function. I have done this on other large projects and found it to be very successful in monitoring and making sure that those concerns are sort of
that the plants stay alive.
Yeah, and that the water quality, whatever's supposed to be designed is correct. And if not, then we have an opportunity to capture that and figure out what needs to happen, rather than just saying, believe us, cross our fingers. So.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Is 3 years the sort of the standard? Because I know that a couple months ago we had an applicant that was, required to be reporting to a point that they came back after like 15 years and said, we still have to do this. Is 3 years a standard? Is 5 years a standard? Is 10, is 3 years enough to really establish some of the plant stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a standard. Many applications don't really even require ongoing monitoring.
I was going to say, typical building construction project, you guarantee landscaping for a year. So 3 years is longer than that.
Okay, I'm just curious what the standards are.
The only point I would make, and the applicant is certainly able to comment on this, but there are what will likely be 2 phases of the project, because you're not going to put both structures up at the same time. So I think the understanding would be that the monitoring would be, we're not going to be monitoring for 3 years if they're putting the second building up in year 4, right? Because then sort of a lot of that construction and work may happen again. So I think we could certainly talk about timing, but the assumption, at least in my mind, would be 3 years from completion.
Wait, have they identified the extent of the site work that would be done in each phase? I'm worried about large dirt areas being left exposed. If it's not all going to get paid.
I don't know where the phasing or the sequence is in the plans, but there could be a substantial amount of time between when building 1 and 2 go up. And so if there's 2 years between buildings 1 and 2, we're going to be monitoring our last year while the second phase is.
Well, but I'd want to know how they left the site work where the building wasn't built yet, just in terms of dirt going into the wetland.
Right. Okay. So.
Are you building all of the site and one building, or half the site and the one building? I'm sorry,
That's new information to me, that it was going up in separate phases, and I think that's a very good question to ask about whether the site's going to be left.
Holden Sabato, the applicant SL50 and 58 for Road LLC. Frankly, the actual phasing of the job is not yet determined.
Okay.
It's going to be based on market conditions, who potential tenants are. There's a good chance it goes in 2 phases, with one of the buildings going before the other. I think the actual progression of the site work is we have to perform the cut right in the south side.
Get your platform.
Yes, exactly. Obviously, all erosion control and everything will have to be in place as we phase it, but it's a little open now. I don't like to say that, but it's undetermined.
So will we kind of get another, not we, or maybe the town consultants get another bite at if they're going to build half the site, to make sure that the other half isn't just left sitting there as bare dirt?
Yeah. So I mean,
they'll probably take all the trees off at one time, but then how much disturbance to the rest of it?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a future drawing. I'm thinking that's a phasing drawing. It might be needed. Maybe not now, but.
Yeah, and I will say too, as part of the state erosion and sediment control requirements, any disturbed earth areas that are not actively used in construction are required to be stabilized at least temporarily. So in this case, if we do all the mass earthwork right away to establish the flat building pads for both buildings, and then say the larger building on the south side goes first, we will have to stabilize the area for the smaller building with The perimeter controls would still have to stay up. There's requirements for temporary seating.
Okay, that's like grass seed, so you don't have a lot of dirt blowing around.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that's for
I
the
don't
neighbors.
remember the exact time frame off the top of my head, but it's less than a month if the area is not actively used for construction or
Yeah.
that sector. It has to be temporarily seeded so that it does minimize and keep down any dust and exposed soil conditions.
Is that, Mike, something you can double check? Or?
So there's, I just want to make sure I want to find it. I believe there's a standard condition that you have.
Wait at the end, that one of Robin's, the kind of catch-all, says if anything changes, we can come back and talk to you.
So there's language in here that it's standard condition 8. It says upon direction of the commission agent, erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be removed. No, that isn't it.
And I think that her better note is wait.
At all times, isn't it number
on
6?
page 14, the middle paragraph.
Would it be in number 6, condition 6?
Yeah, so you're right. The second part of 6. Other measures deemed necessary by the commission's agent to prevent erosion impact wetlands watercourse. So
We have something.
Yeah, I mean,
what I'm
same
getting
thing
at is
at all
if for
times.
some reason there's a large portion of the site that's open and not stabilized because where they are in their phasing and there's some rain event or something, there's, I think, adequate protection that regardless of what is in the plans, if Robin goes out and says,
Big
this is a
floppy
change,
mess.
right, or we've got dust blowing all around, you need to address it, there's something in there. It would be really hard to draw a neat box around that and put a number on it and say not more than this square footage or acreage.
No.
But I think there's
Okay.
a mechanism for Robin to address it if there's a concern.
Okay, so, I mean, a message for planning and zoning, maybe to ask for additional information about phasing.
Yeah, I mean, they will be certainly limited by their approval in that they don't have, 25 years to do it. The permit will be valid, for at least 5 years on this side, and so we can't make them do it any faster. We just need to make sure, and we can through what's been proposed here, that if there is time, that there aren't any potential impacts while the site is.
It's left open and
And certainly don't want them to put a bunch of improvements in if there's.
it's going to sit there for 5 years.
Right, rather than leave that as is.
So then does the testing happen after the second building is installed, or does the testing start after?
It starts in whatever areas are occupied. And whatever areas have been built out to their permanent.
You're talking like the water quality testing. So as soon as
Number 26 on the special conditions,
But whatever the
because it
basins,
just says 1 to 3 years.
that's
uh,
talking about making sure that the wetlands that they're building to replace the one is functioning as expected. But I guess
I'm not sure which half of the site that would be. Is that near the big building or the small, the wetland restoration?
Well, I think they're saying they don't necessarily know which site might, but you don't
Oh, you
know
might
if
start.
you're going to do which pad site first. You're not sure yet.
So we're, on the south side, which I do have a good amount of pot. So we're gonna have to start on the south side, whether we build the north side, actually go vertical with it. They'll be, determined by a number of factors, but we'll start on the south side, move to the north side from there.
But you're asking like whether the water quality testing would start,
Right,
would that
so
just be
when
as soon as
does
it's
the-
paved or as soon as it's occupied? When does that clock start?
Yes.
Well, I think we're going to define that right now.
Okay.
Based on what you think and what's reasonable. So right now, I'm just,
Which item are we talking about?
When the clock starts for the
But
5
where's
years of
the
water
item?
quality testing.
Special conditions,
But which one?
26. 26?
Okay, that's 26.
Oh,
so,
which one are you looking at? I was looking at this one.
Right, that's what they're saying, that's the wetland part, but the
Well,
other question is the 5 years for water quality.
That would start following whenever that is built. So whichever happens.
Whatever
it goes.
The
with.
wetland's gonna go with whatever that's built.
Oh, gotcha.
This is a little wetland restoration area where they're gonna plant new plants and stuff. And it's just to make sure that they stay alive and stay.
What I was talking about was condition 9.
Okay. They'll be tested annually for all drainage outfalls that discharge from each of the stormwater management basins shall be tested annually for 5 years by an independent third-party lab to determine if hydrocarbons and diesel particulate matter are present. The test results shall be forwarded to the director. So I think your thought is if you just have half the place built and half the trucks, And then when you build out the second one, you've got perhaps twice as many trucks.
What number are you on? Just, I'm sorry.
Number nine.
Nine.
All right.
The thing about hydrocarbon testing, the residue from the
So
exhaust.
I wrote down, I just want to copy these so that I can talk up more about it and I can make any changes so that we're not trying to listen to the recording. So there are two. There's the special condition 26 and the one that you just read. Both have timelines associated with them which are not yet defined. And we're not in the business of making assumptions as to what those mean because both sides will interpret them to be different. So the first one is the applicant, or the shorter one. The applicant shall provide a report from a registered soil scientist at years 1 and 3 that the wetland enhancement area is stabilized and functioning as proposed. So how do
Whenever
you
it's
want to,
built.
whenever what is built, the whole project?
Six
wet, right.
months, 6 months following completion of construction of that area. I mean, 6 months, you need to give the stuff a chance to grow.
So
Would that be a good time to start looking at it 6 months after you finish planting it?
So it depends on like when that growing
Oh,
season
time of year.
would be. So, but the general rule that we would follow is after it's all complete, all seasons in the same area. So that would be good.
From one area as far
One
as.
area. So after it's first complete, growing season comes in, they'll lay it all out. We test, we go there, approve that it's all the way it's supposed to
You
be.
plant it the right
Then we're
time.
going to be back the next growing season is how we normally.
So it would commence the following growing season after planting.
So, yeah, so I'm thinking just change it to something along the lines of that the soil scientist shall provide it 1 year and 3 years following the installation of or the completion of
The pond, whether or not the rest of the buildings are put up or not.
completion
because
of the
it's-
wetland enhancement area
Yeah.
to confirm.
That area will have to be part of the first phase because that is part of the
New
creation of
road.
that new
Access road. Okay.
yes.
So if we amend it, it would read something along the lines of the applicant shall provide a report from a registered soil scientist 1 year and 3 years following the completion of the wetland enhancement area to confirm the enhancement area is stabilized and functioning as proposed.
Can you call that?
So that's revised number
26.
26. Now we want
Look at number nine.
to, is everybody,
That's much more clear.
okay, yeah, agreed. I don't want to, my head's on the keyboard here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Number 9 currently reads all drainage outfalls that discharge from each stormwater management basin shall be tested annually for 5 years. An independent third-party laboratory shall be tested by an independent third-party laboratory to determine if hydrocarbons and diesel particulate matter are present. The test results shall be forwarded to the Director of Planning and Economic Development and the town engineer for review.
I would say the timeline may need to be extended to accommodate second, later phase of construction. And not pin it down. But
So
Would it be each year until 5 years after completion of
The
the,
last
of the final phase? Yes, or of the overall project? I think that sounds like that would be the intent. Thinking out loud, obviously, but
okay, and it covers each basin. So everyone will get, because some will probably get more and some less.
Yeah, I mean, if
depending
it's-
on the
if-
traffic.
it's each year, because it's annually. And the 5 years sounds like we want it to be done 5 years after the project's completed, right?
To feel the full effect of it.
What if the project's never completed?
Exactly.
So it's still each year, you're still.
Right, so you continually, and then 5 years
Annually.
after it's done. So
And then
from the
5
first
years.
year that construction begins, annually till 5
Yeah,
years
again,
after
I'm
it's
trying to
done.
get at the intent. I don't know
Yeah,
if 5 years is
No,
too, yeah.
Are there,
Up to 5 years after final construction.
are there 4 of the stormwater detention?
There's 5 total.
5. So probably 3 will get built and maybe 2 will be later with the second building.
It depends which building you get built, but something along those lines, yes.
I don't know how expensive this testing is in terms of 60 of these tests.
You know, one alternative we were just discussing is on completion of each wetlands basin, you can monitor each particular basin for 5 years, because it could be a number of years before the total project is complete. monitoring basins for.
Question is, are there interdependent impacts,
And more
right?
trucks come from the other
The
building.
more trucks, the more hydrocarbons and
Have a
diesel.
sense of that, but if there could be interdependent impacts, then it might not be sufficient to monitor one basin, and then if that,
Stop.
yeah,
And
then
have more
stop.
trucks, yeah.
Well, so
Have you done?
I
this
can't
type
take
of mon-
inputs in my ears and think, but
Yeah.
the wetland permit is only good for 5 years. So if they build if they build one building, they can't sit on it for 6 years. They will not have another permit,
They'll have to come back.
which they'll have to come back. So yes, they could renew it. And so I think at that point, if that permit has expired, so the 5 years covers that activity. In year 6, they cannot continue without at least coming back to you. At that point, you will have had monitoring from building 1 for multiple years, and you will have the opportunity to adjust some of those things. And I think, if they're going to renew the permit, then they're going to renew the conditions because it's all going to sort of restart. So the max lifespan of all this activity is 5. So I think
Leaving this the way it is probably.
So I think that it should be, I was trying to incorporate language on the front end that said it should be tested annually following the issuance of the certificate of occupancy.
Yes.
Or a certificate of occupancy,
Yes.
because you can't have, trucks not going to be coming and going if they don't have permission to occupy.
Yeah, that's a good kickoff.
So, issuance of.
Yeah.
Anyway. Does that make sense? And so it would require annual testing following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for a minimum of, for 5 years.
Just tested
I
annually.
think that's fine. It needed that start date.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. Suppose the first building gets built in a timely manner and monitored for 5 years. And 5 years later, they can build the second building. And does monitoring stop at that point?
The current permit will tell them they need to monitor to 2030. At 2030, the permit expires. So if they want to build the next building outside of that, they have to come back to you prior to the expiration.
Let's say they built both buildings within the 5-year time span,
Mhm.
but the second building is built kind of at the end of that 5-year time period.
So year 4.5, they build it?
Monitor.
In other words, you
more
have
than a
double
year.
the truck traffic, but you're done monitoring those.
Right. Well, the answer to your question is, in that situation, they would not continue to have to monitor. What I would comment on is, I'm not an expert in this, but I think it would be unlikely that you monitor 4.5 years of building 1 and everything looks good, and now you add building 2 and now suddenly everything has fallen apart, right? You should see, if you're seeing anything in the testing for building 1, you should see a doubling if they're adding building 2, because they're substantially the same structures, right? So I think if the first 4.5 years of monitoring goes well, and there aren't any issues, then I don't think you're going to see a change in that monitoring simply because the second building is, because you would have seen it with the first building just to a lesser degree.
So you
So
would have had some residue of some kind.
you'd see something, right? You'd see something show up. I don't think it's going to go from 0 with building 1 to of extreme concern with building 2.
Would you want to say for a minimum of 5 years and no less than, pick a number, 2 years after the completion of the final
Second.
building? Second,
Sure.
Just to address that concern. There's some period of time after.
And I would say we could certainly waive it if there hasn't been a drop.
That seems reasonable to us.
5 years, Benjamin. Okay, so let's figure out
No less than the 5.
what period of.
No less than and then up to. And 5, and 2 additional years, yeah.
Yes. A minimum of 5, and
Because if you don't see anything within
I
2
said it
years.
earlier, I think.
Yeah.
Originally more clearly.
The next thing I'm going to ask you guys, if you have any questions before we go to the public for their comments, after Mike's done typing.
I'm not sure on this, so.
Yep.
All drainage outfalls that discharge from each stormwater management basin shall be tested annually following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for 5 years following the completion of building 1 and for an additional 2 years following the completion of building 2 by an independent third party, yada, yada, yada. I think that's what we're. Unless we feel there's significant subjectivity in what completion means. I can include substantial completion.
Well, did you still want to say certificate of occupancy for the first
second
5
one.
years
I like that.
after?
That's what's in, that's,
Okay.
yeah, following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
No less than 5 years after an initial certificate of
First.
occupancy.
So to be tested annually or annually following the issuance of a certificate for no less than 5 years following the completion of building 1 and for an additional 2 years following, you want me to say substantial completion of building 2?
Whatever to the occupancy.
I can use that same
Yep.
terminology if you.
Yeah.
Just say it again.
It's when the-
Or again, for a minimum of 2 years,
Following occupancy.
minimum of 2 years, at least the 5, minimum of 2 following the total project completion. Something like that.
Might want to word it so that if everything can fall within 5 years, including that extra 2 years,
That's why.
that would be fine, presumably.
But that would catch it though if you
5 years
said
following
minimum of
building
5. No, so you could still get it if it's all within that 5 years. Then you're covered.
Tested annually following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for no less than 5 years following the completion of building 1 and for a minimum of 2 additional years following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for building 2. Yes,
Captures it.
Yes.
I did not, this is not my strong suit, writing this stuff on the fly. So, want me to read it again in its entirety? Are you comfortable?
You can.
One more
slightly-
time all the way through.
Once we get.
The intent is 5 years regardless, but you want to catch at least 2 years of the final
Last
completed project. 5
I mean, are they
years
testing
kickoff.
soil samples? That's,
It's just,
would it be, soil samples would be what you'd be testing? Stuff that
Rated.
gets. Oh.
Frankly, we've never been required to do this.
I've never done it, either in my construction experience, that's why I'm not quite sure.
yeah, I mean, this was the concern right from the some of the
Airborne stuff.
townsfolk about
Or if you have,
particulates and
you know,
other things.
trucks leaking oil. I mean, actually, my biggest concern is probably salt, but I don't think we have control.
Yeah, I mean, if the project is completed within 3 years, then the total requirement is still 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just if the project completed,
Okay, so we're on the same wavelength. I was just typing, if the project is not completed prior to 2028.
that's a good
Additional
avoid
2 years.
for clarity. Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
And we're testing for hydrocarbons and diesel particulate matter.
Right. Drainage, outflow, whatever.
You know, they don't do this around gas stations and stuff.
If the project is not completed prior to 2028, such testing shall be provided for an additional 2 years following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for building 2. Everybody, okay, makes sense?
I'm okay, yep.
Is that, you understand what it says and agree? Okay. I'll send these to you so you don't have to try to
I
get this from the minutes.
I mean, and to your point, if the first 5 years of only building 1 is now all looks good, it's in all likelihood it's going to look good, but it just addresses that concern. Well, you add another 300,000 square feet, let's make
More
sure,
works.
right? So it's a
Okay.
couple of years of that, so.
Okay. So, commission members, any questions for the applicant or Mike?
I have a question for staff. Is it possible that there be updates as these conditions are satisfied? As in posted online or however, so that, I mean, 5 years from now, will everybody in town know what the status of the project is?
I think that Marking milestones is always tricky because a lot of times several of them happen in short order and they're really a more of a function of weather and how the construction sort of is occurring. But there are certain items in here which could be incorporated into like a wetland agent report, which would then make it into the minutes. And they're going to have to provide certification of the temporary sediment basins. Staff's going to have to do have a pre-construction meeting. Staff's going to have to look at the ENS that's installed. The limits of disturbance will be there. All the monitoring reports will be provided.
The most important stuff happens during construction, and there's all requirements that if you get some heavy rainstorm, someone has to walk around and look and see if all the stuff got plugged up. So it's really during the construction period, and I mean, I used to have to write those reports every week on my construction site. I have to walk around and inspect all the hay bales, so it gets monitored. What other milestones are you thinking of?
I'm looking at the list of standard conditions and special conditions. Have those posted someplace with an indication of whether that thing has, what the status of that item is. Of course, some of them will occur in short order, and some will be not necessarily actually happen. If it's a condition that shouldn't happen, then there's nothing to report. Just
different things go on at different stages.
Sure.
So Tom requiring those 3 stages of, just the raw, taking all the trees and stumps out, and that actually is giving us the best control. So that Mark has something to look at in each of those stages. Instead of just having one, this is what it's going to look like at the end during construction. So
to your point, though, I think he was saying that could be included in the wetlands agent reports that we have given at each of the meetings, like as this project is progressing,
most of them
right?
could be correspondent, right? Your reports and data will come to the commission as correspondence. You'll see the reports. You're going to get that data, which become part of the packet, which is posted online and in the minutes. So there will be certainly those major checkpoints will be captured. Some of the other stuff, I feel like it might be a little bit difficult to track sort of compliance with the conditions on the website in a way that is not going to put staff in a position where if they haven't updated something or there's going to create confusion. I'd much rather have them just call and say, what's the status? Can we run through it? So that if something doesn't get updated or if there's an inspection done or who knows what,
they'll go out to the site more frequently when more stuff's going on.
Is there a level of transparency that Joe Public can go take a look at any given time?
A construction site, no.
Like on a page for the town or something?
Well, with the building inspector, you'd be able to walk the site, I would think. In permission of the owner. You'd have to sign in, wear a hard hat or boots.
But just anybody in the town, if they had a question, they're not going to be able to find that out.
You mean if they're doing
They're just curious. Like as a level of transparency to what's going on.
Generally, my experience is you don't let people on your construction site.
No, just.
If these guys see muddy water coming out of the site, they'll come into town.
In regards to the reports that are done, though.
Oh, the reports, I'm sure that I would think everyone can see the reports.
Yeah.
well, once they come to you, they're going to become part of the packet, which goes online.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's,
You're
yeah.
just looking, the town has an online permitting portal, which is public facing. So any member of the public could go online and could see the permit and status and what was applied for. And I'm trying to figure out, not sure if you can view like all the individual inspections and stuff.
You mean the building inspector's reports?
Well, like it's an online permit portal, so zoning is in there. It's all the permits.
I don't know, but because usually the town guy would walk around and write stuff and if he sees bad stuff, but I don't know if that's shared or not.
And then if there were violations and there was anything, that would come here obviously as a report as well.
But we would get. Okay.
So let me ask it this way. As these conditions are satisfied, there is town staff that's aware of it. There will be minutes of meetings where these things have been discussed and so forth.
In other words, will Mark know what he should be looking for and checking for?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his job.
And those minutes will be posted on the website for the public to look at.
I mean, he'll basically walk around and if everything looks okay, you write nothing. The only thing you write up are usually things that aren't right. So,
I think your question is that going to be brought to the board every month with like part of the wetlands agent? No. Is that what you're asking?
That would be nice. I don't know if that wasn't my specific question, but
we
that
haven't,
would satisfy.
we
Right.
haven't had big projects like this, so
Right.
these aren't things you would ever do for like a residential or
Right.
small commercial building, so we haven't really wrestled with it. I don't know what Mark's level of reporting is. Maybe we can find out.
I think that once the project starts, we can certainly get into some type of a rhythm where staff is reporting in some way, either in writing or whatever, and saying, here's what we've done.
We went to
what's
the
going
site,
on.
this is
Whether
how
it's
it's
a-
going.
Right.
They're doing this at this point, this is what's coming up next month.
Twice a year, some kind of a update
Yeah.
on status and,
Yeah.
you know, the commission could request that or something like that.
Yeah, with really large projects, I've done, we've done, obviously with arrangement from the applicant, after like all the wetland plantings after the enhancement areas are in, you could certainly ask the applicant if you could have a special meeting with a sidewalk if you'd like to view them. Like, there's a lot that we can do. I don't think we need to sort of codify it in anything formal on the website, but you will certainly have access to the information and updates.
Like possibly arrange a tour with the owner commission. Yeah, I mean, that would, yeah. Are you satisfied?
I think so. More or less.
Any other questions?
I'm new to this, so I'll ask the dumb questions. It seems like most of these items you have very specific acceptable test limits. And while we're on this number 9 here, and we spent so much time on it, who determines what's acceptable and unacceptable for hydrocarbons in these specific areas?
I think any are probably not good, but I don't know, I don't think there's regulatory. I've never done this kind of testing.
It seems like you should have some kind of limits on here for like
Criteria, yeah.
acceptable or unacceptable.
It's not a common thing to do.
Yeah, I was just curious. Okay.
I mean, I can call a testing lab and ask them, but.
But it's going to be dependent on the size of the area you're looking at and how much water's in it, or what's acceptable ppm.
Well, I mean, hazmat is usually
Okay.
quite intense. I wouldn't expect this to approach,
Would hope not. Yeah.
No, contaminated soil where an oil tank is leaked. I mean, this, I wouldn't expect will be anywhere close.
Okay.
I mean, that's the kind of testing I'm used to, and that's very clear cut, hydrocarbons in earth, what's too much, what's
So back to the question though, are we asking for a test that doesn't exist?
a little bit.
Well, I mean, what will be the standard that it's judged by? Like, it doesn't really mean anything for us to put this in if we don't know
Can we ask you guys?
what the testing protocol might be.
Can you contact a testing lab and get more information?
Well, so
Or what the state regulations, if there are?
If I may, so the way the comment is kind of written now is looking for hydrocarbons, that falls under DEEP's purview. So if I may recommend that we follow the DEEP guidelines for what their thresholds are for reportable volumes. That would be their, it has very clear definition.
For contaminated soil?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
that's actually very well
That makes
established.
reasonable sense.
Yeah.
so if we
There's a
add,
standard,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
established standard.
So maybe we should
Exactly what
reference
you
that we're
referenced.
looking to meet
You
the
have to take it
standards.
out.
so what if we added to the end of number 9, after it currently ends with for review, we could add, and to confirm such limits are deemed acceptable per Connecticut DEEP's guidelines.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Everybody feel comfortable with
Who wrote this?
that? These are combined between Robin's review, the town engineer's review. I assume Mark was involved. I read through them.
Yeah, Tom
So they
told
would,
me he wanted this. And Rob, but
well, I would
forgot.
think that he would know specifically,
What he meant.
yeah, like
But
what the standard is.
It never
That-
hurts
I mean,
to codify your intent to
Right.
both receive and evaluate,
Yeah.
right? Because they provided it to you. If it tells you that the sky is falling, all
Then
you
what?
said is that they need to provide.
Yeah.
it. So I think it's not a bad idea to
Tie it to
further
some
state,
standard.
correct.
But if he wrote this, then I feel like he should be stating exactly what his expectations are.
Well, I
To
think
what standard?
I don't think that he can establish a separate standard. I'm assuming he's reviewing to DEEP's standard.
Right.
He couldn't
but
say, well, I
you're
want it to be
assuming-
X. Well, we're now stating,
Putting it in there.
we're stating that it has to meet
Yeah,
the DEEP
but what if he
guidelines.
has something else in mind?
I don't think he can establish his own arbitrary level. If DEEP says it's got to be at X, I don't think he can say why.
Yeah, but I'm assuming that I am thinking that he had something in mind, a specific standard that he was, if we define it as like DEP requirements and that's not what the standard he wanted to use,
It sounded to me like there aren't any other standards. That's the standard in
it's the
Connecticut.
only one?
There's
the only
not.
one I,
Standard.
I mean, to me, particulate matter sounds airborne, but that's not.
Yes, but
Was it
my point is.
generally
that he had an
accepted
idea of what.
standards in
He
Connecticut,
had in
is that just, I'm just trying to address that concern, right?
My recommendation would be use as standards established by a state agency because
I'm okay with
we're
it.
referencing a criteria that we ourselves don't have the expertise to establish, but they do and have.
Yeah.
So I think that Tom can't establish his own criteria. He can review it, but he
Deep
can't.
soil
But he can be working on a specific standard and to assume that it's, like for us to assume something that he obviously had in mind when he defined it.
I don't want to assume that he had a standard in mind. I think that he was trying to address the testing, but
Okay.
if there's no other standard to reference here, option is leave it as is or include a reference to a standard that we know to exist. And I don't know how to provide an option C.
I think Connecticut deep would be sort of soil contamination requirements.
Makes sense, yeah.
And then testing wise, how you test for that stuff is also all well established. Okay, so. Other questions? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, as long as we got something rolling here for that standard, yep.
Yeah, you actually are making it clear, so that's good. You guys?
I guess. Well, I just feel like if he wrote it in there, he had an idea.
He's on vacation, I can call him next week. If you want me to double check.
I just feel like, okay,
If it turns out there's something big or different, I'll let you know.
okay.
All right, comments from the public? Or questions, I guess, if, we're not supposed to have questions, but. All right, and then to not make them sit through all of our other business, I was going to suggest we now go to item 8, the vote.
Can we just, I just want to state audibly that if there's anybody that's online that is wishing to make a comment, now would be the time. Have a couple of people. We should be able to raise them. Not seeing anybody on the. Just wanted to confirm.
Anything else final from you guys?
We just want to thank you for this time and respect to this application.
So the motion that's on page 11, I'm going to read it and ask one of you guys to make the motion, someone to second
So
it.
first you need to close the public, motion to close the public
Sorry,
hearing.
can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
If everybody, and I want to explain, if everybody's comfortable, you have no more questions, once you close the public hearing, they cannot speak. I can answer certain questions, but nothing new. So if there's anything else lingering, now's the time. Just want to double check, make sure we're good. Okay.
Moved.
Okay. Second?
Second,
Okay. So now can I make the motion?
So I want
We
to,
need to vote.
yeah, you need to vote on the motion to close the hearing.
All in favor?
here,
Okay, so I just want to go through, looking at the minutes from the last meeting and those that are here, we have there's 7 members on the commission. So right now, from what my I don't know if you call it math, but Jennifer, Lisa, John would be seated, Ken, Joel, and Colby. Those would be the voting members. Paula, as the alternate, would not be seated. So Joel is a new member, not at the last meeting, and Colby was not at the last meeting. So for them to both be seated and voting, just need to acknowledge that you have reviewed the record, the application, you're familiar with what occurred at the last meeting, and you feel comfortable to vote. If you don't feel comfortable to vote, then we can see if Paula needs to be seated in lieu of one of you. But if you do, then we have 7 members that can vote.
I'm comfortable with it.
I've reviewed it and I'm comfortable as well.
So those would be the 7 voting members.
4, 5, 6. Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Someone online?
Oh, right. So, yes, so Paula can be seated because Ron was supposed to be here.
Oh, there's a spot, so even though she
You have
wasn't.
7 regular members, so you have 7 people here. So if you also reviewed the record and are familiar with the last meeting and feel comfortable to vote, then everybody here is seated and can vote. Yeah, Ron was supposed to be here.
So the motion is to approve application CC number 2504, SL 50-58 Rainbow Road, LLC Wetlands Review Proposed Manufacturing and Industrial Development for 50 to 58 Rainbow Road, East Granby, Connecticut, map 17, lot 11, with the following conditions 1 through 31. That I don't feel I have to read, but they're here. So can I have a motion?
Motion to
Okay.
approve?
And a second?
Second.
Okay. And the next thing we ask everyone to vote in favor first, right? Mike, in favor?
Yeah, all those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? None? You're good. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so we're gonna keep going with our business. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 2nd?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Were there any corrections? July? Okay, all in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Communications, John Rusnak has resigned and Joel is replacing him as, I think his term runs out in December 26th or something.
Sounds right.
Yeah, we're here for a while. Let's see, old business. I wanted to catch you guys up on, do you remember 37 Hatchet Hill Road, Bill and Jennifer Allen? They were supposed to remove some fill in several locations and correctly construct driveway crossing pipes. We don't think they're doing it, and Robin has emailed them recently, but she has not had a response. So if I hear anything, I'll let you know. The proposed violation fine policy, the Board of Selectmen is okay with it. There was some discussion, but they are okay with it, but they would like a fine schedule to be attached. So Robin's going to work on that and give that, and we'll probably vote on that at the September meeting. Maybe I'll try and get her to send it out ahead of time. And basically, it's a pretty complicated sounding document, but it's the state of Connecticut standard. So if you, I don't want to say it's bulletproof, but it'll hold up to being tested.
Works.
before.
Yeah.
So that's why we would adopt this thing. It sounds kind of heavy-handed for a little town, but, and then the fines are definitely not mandatory. I mean, we'll have some oversight on the fines. And, we're not going to bankrupt anybody. That's not the idea. Okay. New business. Michelle has sent all you guys that inland wetland online class. Okay. So they say 8 hours. It takes longer. You can retake the sections, but basically, once you start taking it, you have 60 days to finish it. Because I found out I had 4 units left in my last week, so it's not good. So, and we just hope you take it and basically are learning more about wetlands and terminology. So when you read their reports and stuff, the idea is to better. Let's see, I passed it, Lisa's passed, Michelle passed it. So, and Ms. Paula, have you started?
I haven't even gotten on to, it's, my privacy settings are such that I can't even find it on their website. I talked to Michelle about it. I need to go to the library.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And there's no pressure, but just but I guess if you're in some super busy period, don't start it because it does take some time.
You have 60 days completed.
Yeah. So if you do like one a week, but I would figure at least 2 hours, because the best way to pass the tests at the end of each unit is to take a lot of notes, and that slows you down quite a bit.
Is it 8, 1 hour?
That's what but it takes way more than that.
Some sections are a little longer than that.
Yeah.
And they quiz you right at the end of the module. So you do module 1, there's a quiz.
10 questions. I think 80 passes. Or
Yeah,
70
get it 80, you can retake it. It's not it.
Got a couple done today.
Oh, good. Oh, you got a couple. All right, then maybe it's not as bad as I described.
Wasn't too bad.
Okay, good.
It's a little dense, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, definitely does. Let's see, I wanted to stress, Robin is not sure we're all reading her reports, that she spends a lot of time writing. So and I know they always come out like 2 days before our meetings. So, because that's when she gets the documents, but she really goes to a lot of trouble to highlight, what are the pinch points, what are the sensitive areas, and to explain them. So I would like everyone to please really make an effort to, and if you have questions, or like I came in and sat with her, we went through the plans and she explained stuff to me.
Would she ever be here to present any of those? I mean, I read all the reports, but.
She's here Tuesday and Thursday morning, so if you email her, you make an appointment.
So she'd like feedback on how much we liked it?
Are we even reading them? Are they reading them? I'm like, I think so, but.
Yeah, I would say, yes, right?
Okay.
So you could probably give her the feedback.
Yes, we're reading them.
All right. Good.
And, yeah.
So, and then a new topic, the town is going through its every 10-year study of plan of conservation and development. And so we are called the Conservation Commission. So my thought is I would like to get us a little bit involved in looking at open space and figuring out what might be good areas that we would like them to emphasize. And I'm not quite sure how to go about it. We have the next couple months to do it, but would you guys generally be in agreement and kind of looking at some maps and having some discussion? No, not additional meetings. Are we allowed to do that within our meetings?
Well, just put it as an agenda item.
Yeah. Okay.
I did this
What's
with,
the
So,
broad intent?
Plan of conservation and development is where do you want development in your town and where do you not want development? What might be green areas that you want, like East Granby Farms, if there were some areas near there, would we like to get more open space near there? To kind of prioritize areas to not develop and to develop. The town doesn't have a big pot of money to buy land right now.
Right.
So this is a little bit hypothetical.
But this is part of also this, every 10 years, the town has to go through a recreation of the plan of conservation development.
Okay.
This is a year that it's being done.
So a lot of that is prioritizing. If we were going to, where would we want to do that and be ready if we are in a position to do it, right?
And also, one of the things Robin is going to put in there is the requirement for open space that comes with the development. Like right now, we get little strips and stuff.
Yeah.
She's going to try and put some more teeth so that when they give us a piece of land, a lot of it's been wetlands that comes to the Trap Rock Ridge or Land Conservancies. But, that we get better open space as part of bigger projects, parks or whatever, something, not just leftover pieces.
we've worked with some towns, and this can be a very polarizing topic because some people don't want the town deciding that, oh, well, we should buy your land for open space. And the other side to that is once you say you want a piece of property, it becomes more valuable to the person who's going to have to decide to sell it to the town. And sometimes figuring out what parcels the town should focus on can kind of get in the way of the overall conversation. And so certain communities have shifted to trying to come up with a list of how to determine the value a piece of property might have, not monetary, but is it in an NDDB database? Is it part of a ridge line? Does it create an uninterrupted greenway? Is it adjacent to open space? So, you can certainly look at the maps, but you also might want to think about what would the qualities of valuable open space have, and you can create that. And I worked with Newington last year on this, and we signed values to certain criteria based on how important they were, so they could come up with a rank.
So you're defining it before you're identifying it.
Right, rather than just saying, oh, this one or oh,
It's
that
next to
one.
this one.
Right.
So that
Right.
when a piece of property comes up and yes, some a developer says, oh, we want to give you open space, well, this is, landlocked, no one can access it. It's not buildable anyways. It doesn't provide anything. It's you say, no, we want the fee in lieu of, and then you use that to buy land that ranks high on. So there's a lot of different sort of levers that you can pull, but creating some of that means that if the property no one thought about comes up, you can determine, should we strongly
It's a good one or
recommend?
not, yeah.
Yeah, so you could kind of approach it from both sides.
I mean, the ridge along the quarry is kind of, we'd like to keep that because of the trail that's on it, stuff like that. So you guys somewhat in favor of spending a little time on it?
And Art,
Sure.
Okay. I'm not quite sure how.
Maybe suggest that people think about it for the next meeting as an agenda item.
Sure. Yeah, because if September's going to be quiet. All right. So open space next meeting. And Mike's firm, different people from his firm are actually assisting the town with the study. And they had maps. And one of the exercises when it was over in the town hall a couple of weeks ago was putting dots on, what people thought of as good open space.
Community center, you mean?
There's also a project website. And it's like
Oh.
a public feedback portal, which has different things that you can interact with and provide.
There's a link on the town website that you can get to this.
There's like,
I think
you can
it's
provide comments and you interact with maps and things. So that's been live for quite some time, but you can access that at your leisure.
Let's see, reports and other business. That's all I had. Does anybody else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
boom, boom.